The history of copyright. Copyright laws and piracy of intellectual property has been around for centuries. Originally, copyright was controlled by the printers, not the actual authors of the body of work. As far back as the 1500s, when Queen Mary I chartered one of the first guilds for printers, bookbinders, and booksellers. One major reason for creating the guild was to control and censor what was being printed. This allowed the producers of the material to make the royalties on the books produced. The authors were not allowed into the guilds, and therefore did not benefit from the original copyright laws. Those printing without a guild membership were imprisoned. In the mid to late 1600s, a series of licensing acts took control of copyright laws. The guild still existed and controlled the printing business. Authors were allowed to sell their work to printers, but after that the right of the work belonged entirely to the printers. Guild members were now allowed to buy and sell work within the guild. Also, guild members had to have one copy of each work on file to ensure that works weren't changed by printers after they had gone through the censors. In 1694, the licensing acts expired. This led to an influx of cheap printings of many works. To me, this would be equivalent of it now being legal to buy and sell those bootleg DVDs I found in Chinatown while visiting New York last summer. Now, with the flood of what the guilds considered illegal copies being sold on the streets, they began to lobby for new legislation. What resulted was the Statute of Anne, or its full name, an act for the encouragement of learning by vesting the copies of printed books in the authors or purchasers of such copies. During the times therein mentioned, this statute was named after Queen Anne, who was the ruler of England when the act was passed in 1709. This isn't considered to be the first true copyright law. Now, like current copyright laws, this law only governed England, Scotland, and Wales. This meant that books could be printed illegally in other countries or British territories and sold outside of England, Scotland, and Wales. However, if these illegally printed copies were brought into one of the three British territories, those who printed the bootleg copies could be prosecuted. It was not until 1886 when copyright law started to become an international conversation. This organization that came together was called the Berne Convention. The Berne Convention is still intact today, and it now includes 164 countries. What is different with the Berne Convention compared to the Statute of Anne is that the Berne Convention gives copyrights automatically to the authors and creators of the intellectual property. So that's a brief history of copyright laws. What we'll look at next is how the history of copyright in England has affected the protection of intellectual property in the modern United States.